Dr. Charles Ivy Williamson. And Dr. Ivy Williamson. The first name is actually the name of my father, and the second is my brother. Two physicians that I highly respect, and my father has passed away, but I consult my brother quite often on medical issues. He is an internal medicine physician, and especially when we have anything about internal medicine, even during the COVID crisis, he was actually on the show. The reason I bring those up is that I've said many times that I have a fantastic tie with the medical community, not only in my area, but also outside of the state. So I say that because of what today's podcast covers. Covers some, yet again, bad information from a physician regarding fitness. Is running bad for your face? Dispelling yet another myth today on the Personalized Fitness Podcast. Good day and welcome to the Personalized Fitness Podcast. My name is Garrett Williamson. I'm president of Personalized Fitness. Thank you so much for tuning in today as we dispel yet again another ridiculous myth being put forth by a medical professional concerning exercise. Now, before I dive headfirst into this and probably lose my temper a little bit, let me tell you how to get in touch with the show if you have any questions about this show or any questions concerning dispelling the myths of health, fitness, and wellness, and especially if you had any questions for our Ask Katie section. You can contact me at area code 251-278-3343. That's 251-278 EDGE. You can also reach me at Garrett, Garrett, at personalizedfitness.com, which is my email address, and personalizedfitness.com, of course, is our Facebook page. Hit me up on Twitter at TeamPE if you so desire. I was perusing some fitness topics online, which I do quite often, and a lot of times I run across articles such as this when they're just incredibly ridiculous, and I find out worse, even a worse side of it, and that is that they've been viewed or heard so many times. I shudder at it, many of them, and I feel strongly that I need to come on and do a podcast to clear the air on some ridiculous, just completely ridiculous ideas that are put forth in the health field concerning health, fitness, and wellness. Now, I mentioned in the intro that I come from a medical family. I've said that many times on the show, and I actually have the utmost respect for physicians. And the reason that I say this is that too many times in our field, I'm sure this happens in other fields too, but too many times in our field, personal trainers, mostly the weekend certified personal trainers, are quick to bash other medical professionals, especially physicians. And I don't want to get lumped into that group. I actually had a trainer, and I use the air quotes on that, because of the opinion that he gave me on this, and actually it speaks to his success or lack thereof, I should say. And he actually told me one time that doctors, all they do is write prescriptions, give pills. That's all they do. They don't know anything about health. They just write prescriptions, give pills. And I thought, what a completely ridiculous thought that is, because you've got physicians doing everything from, of course, repairing different parts of the body to at the paramount of it, saving lives, and are more than well trained to do so. I mean, it's a major understatement even to say that. So if you hear me talk against a physician on the podcast, please understand that typically it's because they go into a field that they know very little about. And I'm going to liken this to another trade. In the construction field, it is common that architects don't always get along with the contractor, and so you have some back and forth about that. The architect is going to know generally about all aspects of the design or construction, everything from all about the roof to the walls to carpentry to plumbing to electrical to all of it. They're going to have a base knowledge of that, and beyond a base knowledge of that, I'm certain. Please, if you're an architect, I don't know all of your field, but I've worked with a brilliant one, and it was obvious that he had more than just a cursory understanding of these fields. But when it comes to having a problem, in the details, like in my building, if I have a problem with plumbing, I'm not going to go to the architect, and I'm not going to go to the contractor. I'm going to go to the plumber, because the plumber understands the most about plumbing when it comes to actually doing the details of plumbing. At some point in time, the contractor is going to turn it, not just consult a plumber, but he's going to turn everything over to the plumber. And if he has a plumbing question, probably not going to try to answer it. He's going to have the plumber answer that question. And he's not going to get into it, because he's going to flat out tell you, this is, I know enough about this, a lot about this field, but I don't know everything about it, because here's somebody that does. In the construction field, I would think that the apex, as far as general knowledge or the most knowledge about construction, would be either the contractor or the architect. I get that. And in the health field, it happens to be physicians. They face it. They have the most education, whether it's the most education about a particular venue, that's a particular detail in health and fitness and wellness. Maybe not so much, but in their specialty, they have a large amount of education, more so than even a PhD in kinesiology does, as far as how many years they went to school, how much education they have, particularly in their field. And because of that, the general public thinks that they must know everything about health, fitness, and wellness. An MD behind your name knows that you know pretty much all the details when it comes to health, fitness, and wellness. And doctors know that's not true. The reputable ones will tell you, this is not something we study. The smart ones will tell you that nutrition is not something that they study. Typically in the curriculum, unless it's changed recently, there's about an hour worth of nutrition in a MD, curriculum, and there's maybe that much or possibly less when it comes to exercise, when it comes to actual physiology. But since the general public understands or believes that the MD is the paramount, the apex of the health field, if they hear a physician say something, they will take it as that's got to be it. That no matter what a trainer says or what an exercise physiologist says, doesn't matter. A doctor has said this, so therefore he must be right. I don't find fault with that as much as I find fault with the medical field doesn't tend to correct it. And I'm sure that there are trainers that do the same thing, but there are I believe too many doctors that allow that to go straight to their head, and try to make assumptions, try to make observations, and it's picked up by the media, and it's blown completely out of proportion. Today I have a great example of this. This is an article pulled from the Today Show. Now, I don't think that this individual was actually interviewed on the television version of the Today Show. I think this was strictly an online article that a reporter from the Today Show quoted and put together, or called some sources and put together. But they were going off of another media, and the fact that this video, this comment, was made on something that had been viewed. I'm looking at my notes here, but it was in the millions. It was like 3 million times or something. I'll have to find it. I'll probably come across it in just a minute. But this video was viewed several times. And up to millions of times. And when you find out, it was 3 million. There it is. It's been viewed almost 3 million times. And not only was it ridiculous that the comment that this doctor made, but it was made on the most scientific of media sources. Would that be the Journal of American the Journal of Sports Medicine, which actually is a fantastic journal, puts out a lot of good studies and funds a lot of them that I know of. Was it put out in an AMA publication of some sort? No, it was actually put out on TikTok, and the video has been viewed 3 million times. There's a physician by the name of Dr. Gerald Ember, and Dr. Gerald Ember is a plastic surgeon, and he actually is quoted as saying that lots of running can prematurely age the face. And I'm going to quote here. His quote is, "Have you ever seen a long-distance runner longtime runner that didn't have a gaunt, old face, Dr. Gerald Emberd asked in TikTok video that has been viewed almost 3 million times. Quote, that's what happens, he continues, calling it his pet peeve. Quote, your knees go, this is a plastic surgeon saying this. Quote, your knees go, your ankles go, your back goes, and it's kind of dumb. Brilliant. Brilliant deduction there from a plastic surgeon, not an orthopedist, not even a cardiologist, because the orthopedists deal a lot with exercise because they deal a lot with damage to the bones, damage to tendons and ligaments. A cardiologist, because they deal a lot with it because they deal with the heart. You have to have a cardiologist on site when you're doing a max testing for a cardiac stress test. So they know a little bit about exercise. No, this was a plastic surgeon, and I love it that he automatically, if you run, according to this plastic surgeon, your knees go, your ankle go, your back goes, and it's kind of dumb. And I don't get too confused. Now, that's a very deeply scientific term there, that it's kind of dumb. I think that's absurd. Ember says he's just calling it, like, deep study he did on this. He's just calling it like he sees it, and that people watching the clip have to take it with a grain of salt and a sense of humor. And trust me, Dr. Ember, I did take it as a tremendous sense of humor. I wish everybody would have understood that this was laughable, completely laughable, that if you run a lot, you're going to end up with an old, gaunt face. And of course, he used the word that, I cannot stand, the heavily connotated word that AGE means deterioration, which it doesn't. And it's been proven over and over again that it doesn't. They're clinical studies, not observational studies. They're just something that you call it like you say it. There's actually clinical studies that prove that it's not time passing on a calendar that causes deterioration. It happens to be 4 things. If you've listened to my 5-part series on the live aging, there's 4 things that actually cause deterioration. They're fitness or activity, nutrition, lifestyle, or mindset. One of those 4 things, and they're 100% controllable. They're 100% your fault. They're 100% your responsibility. And we'll get into this in a minute now, because Dr. Ember actually talks about this, that we don't have any definite numbers on the calendar where this stuff happens, because it happens to different people. Why? And that's because how they treat those 4 ideas. I was appalled when I saw this. I mean, it took me a while to actually review it, to put notes together for this podcast, because I was just so angry about it, that a physical therapist now you've got a physician talking people out of exercise. That's exactly what he's doing. No matter what he says later in the article, and I'll bring that up in a minute about exercise, he's talking people out of exercise, because he's saying that long distance running automatically prematurely ages your face, or prematurely deteriorates your face. I hate the fact that I even used it that way. First and foremost, I'm going to talk about these first lines here. Have you ever seen a long-distance runner, long-time runner, that didn't have a gaunt, old face? Yes, Dr. Ember, as a matter of fact, I have. And the reason that you think you've seen this or observed this, and I'll go with you that a lot of runners don't do all the things they need to do as far as activity, nutrition, especially nutrition, lifestyle, and mindset, that will prevent them from losing all the body fat, not only losing body fat, but losing muscle in their face, in their shoulders, in their hips, in their knees, around their knees, all over. They don't do the things that you need to maintain that. I'll give you that. But that's not what you're saying. You're saying that running automatically causes this. And sir, there's nothing further from the truth. That is an absolute lie. That is an absolute lie, that running automatically causes this. This particular individual happened to be backed up by somebody else too. Let's see if I can find out my notes here. That Dr. Boris Paskover, a facial plastic and reconstructive surgeon at Rutgers, New Jersey Medical School, says he doesn't disagree. His quote is, quote, if you're doing all this super high intensity aerobic exercise, you're going to lose body fat everywhere. That is true. Your body loses fat equally around the body. You can't spot reduce. he goes on to say, and if you lose body fat in your face, well, then you're going to have that gaunt, thinned out look. Period. Well, there's some truth to that. I'll give you that. There is some truth to that. And he goes on to say, which I appreciate, but there's no objective clinical evidence proving either that or the notion that bouncing while running ages, in other words, he means deteriorate, the skin by stretching it, he says. Pascover calls the video commentary, the video is commentary more than anything else. It's commentary, but look who's saying it. I mean, they didn't interview a mechanic about this. Who did they interview? They've interviewed an MD, a plastic surgeon. And he has drawn the conclusion that running causes this damage. Well, sir, it doesn't. It absolutely doesn't. The reason that you see runners that have a kind of a thin look, and it's a complaint I have about runners, and I talk to runners about this on a regular basis, and that is that, they say, I run, I'm in shape because I run, and therefore, I'm running, and that's all I need to do as far as exercise is concerned. Well, as far as the heart is concerned, possibly so, but as far as maintaining the body and living longer, no, absolutely not. Running does nothing as far as your shoulders are concerned, does nothing as far as developing the back muscles, does nothing as far as developing your core. Believe it or not, long-distance running, continual long-distance running really does nothing to build up the muscles in your legs, though so many people think it does. Resistance training does that, and eating for that activity is extremely important. Here's what I mean by that. We have long-distance runners that are running hundreds, but probably thousands of miles that are in their younger years, okay? And they don't have a gaunt look to their face. Well, I would guess that this plastic surgeon, Dr. Ember, would say, well, that's because they're young. Even though, Dr. Ember, there's absolutely no proof. There's no proof that time passing on a calendar causes deterioration. But why do we not see that quote-unquote gaunt look? And sometimes we actually do. But why do we usually don't see it? Well, these particular individuals are eating for that activity. Just like we do with athletes. If you're going to be a lineman, then you're going to take in enough calories to when you exercise and work out in the weight room to build muscle, to add to your frame in order to create a size, a strength, to be able to block somebody off the line. You're not going to just do these activities and not feed for those activities. A lot of runners didn't really learn so much about nutrition, and therefore don't take care of the nutrition. Therefore, they end up not only losing fat, but they end up losing muscle. You have cheek muscles that actually will hold that cheek in place, will give it its form. And you can deteriorate those like you deteriorate an atrophy muscle all around the body if you don't feed it and you don't train it. And that's why you get that kind of gaunt look. The activity itself does not cause that damage, and I have proof of that, copious amounts of proof of that. And we've got a runner right now that actually started with us years ago because they love to run. So many runners, just like swimmers, just like cyclists, do that activity as much for their head as they do for their body. They're dealing with stress, and as I've said in the stress podcast, I talked about what stress is. Stress is actually the body's fight or flight response. That's all stress is. And the reason we renamed it stress is because when we were calling it fight or flight, or referred to it as fight or flight, and we think of our ancestors, we think of cavemen and what have you, dealing with fight or flight by fighting or running away. And so that alleviated that stress. When we started going into office spaces and dealing with stress on a day-to-day basis, and we weren't in a healthy way mitigating it. So that's when you get drinking problems, that's when you get eating problems, what have you. But I'm going way off subject there. So in order to mitigate their stress, runners run, cyclists bike. I'm a swimmer. When I never forget when I was actually working on buying the building that is now our Mobile location, I went to about 14 different banks to see where I could get the best rate, and I couldn't believe the responses I got. But one of them actually told me, "Take my information back. I'm not interested in even talking to you about this." And it made me so mad. I went and swam a 5K because I was so angry, which is stress, and I was going and dealing with it. Now, just this runner that I was talking about earlier that actually was a long-distance runner, had run multiple marathons, ended up having trouble with her knees and was starting to have some pains, but she did not want to have to give up running. So what did she do? Well, she came to the exercise physiologist. Our staff, every single one of our staff members possess at minimum a bachelor's degree in the field of either exercise science, physiology, kinesiology, sport medicine, or athletic training. She came and saw us and said, do I have to give up running? And after a simple analysis, and we actually had some help from her physician as far as analysis on what was going on, we realized that, okay, you can keep going, but we're going to have to develop the strength in all your other muscles, which is what you should do if you're going to continue to do any kind of athletics at a high rate, at like a marathoner's type rate, or if you're going to do a mud run of some sort, some kind of an obstacle course run, you're going to do that to its extreme. You need to train for it. And so this particular runner started training with us. And I'm proud to say that she has now run a marathon in every single state in the union. She's into her hundreds, and pardon me for saying she possibly into her 200s of marathons that she's done. She just recently competed in one in Tokyo. And she's able to do all this because she trains for it. And she still does that activity that this doctor says automatically causes your face to look worn out, to look gaunt. Now, later on in the article, he does state something, and this is kind of the be-all, end-all, and cure-all. And he says that if you don't exercise, all outcomes are always terrible. The maximums are less well-known. Some people, I love this. This is the be-all, end-all, and cure-all. Some people can run for hundreds of miles with no adverse issue, while others can't, and it's very difficult to know who's who. Bull. It's very easy to know what lineman is better than another lineman. I don't know which ones are going to be better or not. I mean, this group over here eats like what they should, trains the way they should, and strengthens the way they should, and practices the way they should. This group over here practices pretty good, but they don't eat and they don't strength train like they should. But I have no clue which one is going to be better, said no intelligent exercise physiologist ever. Of course we know which ones are going to be different. And if you give me a list of runners and you show me what their activity is and you show me what their nutrition is and you don't have to show me their face and you tell me how long they've been running and tell me how long their exercise is going to... Doctor, I am so brilliant. I can tell you which ones are going to help you draw your conclusion that running causes that gaunt, deteriorated looking face. It's really easy for an exercise physiologist to see that, though it may not be for a plastic surgeon. And folks, the reason that I do this podcast is not really that I don't know this gentleman. I have no idea who he is, except for this article came out. I have not seen. I'm not one of the 3 million viewers of this TikTok video either. But the reason I point it out is just be careful where you get your information. And doctors, though they do wonderful things. You know, I've had several of them on my different podcasts. And I come from a medical family. I think the world of physicians. But just like a personal trainer, an exercise physiologist, giving you internal medicine advice, well, that may be their opinion. But we are not the authorities on internal medicine. We may know some about it, but we're nowhere near the authorities on internal medicine. I would seek out an internal medicine specialist like a gastroenterologist. He's going to know more about internal medicine. And I'm not going to profess to know all about internal medicine and tell you, by the way, I don't care what your doctor says, this is what's wrong with your gallbladder. I'm not the person for that. In the same breath, if you want to know about exercise, if you want to know the truth about exercise, how to develop muscles, how to maintain a long, healthy, active lifestyle and not end up with these ailments such as a gaunt-looking face, well, speak to an exercise physiologist. You want to know how to feed for it? Speak to a dietitian. Go to the actual professionals and don't believe everything you hear, especially from an MD, about all aspects of health, fitness, and wellness. They simply don't study it all. Conversely, nor do exercise physiologists. if you have any questions about this particular podcast or any others, or again, if you have any questions about anything that may be a myth or something you're wondering about health, fitness, and wellness, please feel free to contact me at area code 251-278-3343. You can reach out to me at Garrett, Garrett, at personaledgefitness.com. You can also reach me via our website, which is personaledgefitness.com, and our Facebook page, Personal Edge Fitness. Hit me up on Twitter at Team PE if you so choose to reach out to me this way. And if you find fault in what I've said in this, please be more than glad to speak to you about it, because we're not interested in throwing out myths. We're not interested in throwing out half-truths. What we're focused on helping you do all the right things, having the right knowledge to help each and every one of you reach your level of wellness. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and I hope I see you next time.